We spent a lot of time talking about different ways that we can measure the center of data sets and looked at different ways that data can be presented, such as dot plots, histograms, and box and whisker plots. But I realized that we never took the chance to explicitly explain box and whisker plots. So on the screen in front of you, you see a box and whisker plot. It's called a box and whisker plot because, wowza, there's a box right there and whiskers right here. Box and whisker plots are really good ways to show the range of a set of data or how far it spreads. If we are going to look at a box and whisker plot, you can see the minimum and the maximum are already labeled here. So I have my minimum and I have my maximum, and I know that the range is going to be the maximum minus the minimum. The range is how far our data spreads across the distribution. So I can already find my range just by looking at my box and whisker plot. And then there's something really important in our box and whisker plot that's always labeled. It always tells us our median. The very center of our box is going to be our median. It draws a line to show you the median. Now there are some words on here that we might not recognize. It says lower quartile and upper quartile. What that means is that this quartile, quarter, is the 25% mark. The upper quartile is the 75% mark. We know that the median is exactly in the middle of all of our data, so we know that this is the 50% mark, which means that this box represents, if I were to shade this box has 50% of all of the data in it. It has the inner 50% between 25% and 75%, and that is what we call our inner quartile range. So now that we know how a box and whisker plot works, let's see if we can talk about the variability of box and whisker plots in an example. We're going to use this example to examine the variability, or the amount that data varies or changes with our new vocab word in this specific example. So this specific example is looking at the number of stocks sold, and that is measured on our x-axis here by 3 different companies. And I'm going to label these companies with color. So I'll put company C in red, company B in yellow, and company A in green. So remember that when we're talking about the range of box and whisker plots, it's really easy to see the range because those whiskers show us the minimum and the maximum. So what I'm going to do is draw lines from the minimum and the maximum for each of our box and whisker plots so we can see the range. That range is going to show us how much the data is spread, or how far the data is spread. So we can see the sizes of the spread for each of our box and whisker plots by looking at how far those whiskers reach. So if I wanted to talk about how much something varies, that means it's spread out more if it's varied more. So the box and whisker plot with the largest space covered by its range is going to be the box and whisker plot that varies the most. Company B, right here, has the largest range. You can see that the yellow section, this right here, is much larger than those other 2 box and whisker plots. So that has the largest range or varies the most. If I wanted to ask which box and whisker plot varies the least, I would look for the box and whisker plot that takes up the smallest amount of space on my axis, the one that is spread the least, that has the smallest space in between its range, or the space between its maximum and minimum. And that would be company C. You can see that the company C spread is much smaller than the other 2. Its range does not go as far. So I know that it has less variability. The other thing that box and whisker plots make it really easy to see, other than our range, which is the spread, is the median of our data. And remember that median is a way to measure the center of our data. And median on a box and whisker plot is the center line in the box. So the center line measures the 50%, the exact middle mark of our data. So if I'm looking at these 3 box and whisker plots, I can tell by looking at the medians, what I just drew color-coded lines underneath, that our company C has the highest median number of stocks sold because its median is all the way over here. It's much higher than the other two. Company B is right in the middle. It has the second highest number of stocks sold, not socks, silly me. And company C has the lowest median number of stocks sold.